Right, guys, welcome back and welcome to the third and final outcome of Unit 1, where now our focus switches from the internal environment, or kind of the business itself, which was outcome 2, to now the external environment. So this is going to be probably one of the shortest videos you're ever going to watch in this course. And this realistically is actually a bit of a revision because we kind of needed to cover this one at the start of outcome 2 when we introduced this concept of internal and external environment and how they relate to one another in the first place. So there's nothing in here really that's new. This is just a bit of a revision, reminding ourselves what the external environment actually is before we get into the different elements within it. So here's the study design rather. So an overview of the factors of the external environment basically. So this is just a real quick overview, a quick reminder of what the external environment is before we start nutting it out in detail. So remember this diagram, okay? So we introduced this right at the beginning of the second outcome. So we had our internal environment, which was the business itself, that little pinky area, which we've just looked at throughout the whole of outcome 2. So now our focus shifts to these two external layers, the macro and the operating environments, the combination of which makes up our external environment. So if we are defining external environment as a whole, incorporating both of those two layers. So the external environment is made up of a number of factors outside of the business, but which can impact it. The key bits there, outside but impact. When planning the decision making, it's essential for owners or managers to understand and respond to those factors. So a nice simple definition of external environment, which incorporates both macro and operating. So if we're now moving and shifting our focus to the macro environment, and this is the first of the environments that we move through as we move through this outcome. So the macro environment, so similar definition, but a couple of bits are tweaked here to make it more specific to the macro environment. So a range of factors external to the business, again, which managers must understand and respond to, again, but have no control over. Okay, that's the key here. No control over. If you remember before, we talked about this at the beginning of outcome 2, and that's what differentiates it actually from the operating environment. And to finish our definition, we might just want to throw in a few examples that we see in a diagram and the ones that we're going to cover in this outcome. Examples include economic conditions, technological issues, and global issues. You wouldn't need to include all 6 of them or 7 of them, whatever there, but just a couple to demonstrate your understanding. And then finally, the operating environment. So again, very, very similar definition, but just tweaks slightly. So again, a range of factors external, but with which the business directly interacts. This is the difference between operating and macro. The business doesn't interact with the macro factors. It just needs to be aware of them and respond to them. But within an operating environment, if you look at that, customers, competitors, suppliers, don't worry about special interest groups for the time being, because that won't mean anything to you. But, we interact with our customers. We interact with our competitors. We interact with our suppliers. So that's another difference between this one and the macro. And again, because we have some interaction with those groups, then we could be said to have some degree of control over them. We can't absolutely control our customers, our competitors, but because there's an interaction, we could argue that there's some degree of control over those factors, certainly more than those that sit in the macro environment anyway. And again, just a couple of examples to round off our definition. And again, not including all of them, but just chuck in 2 or 3 of them there to finish off your definition to show your understanding. And the remainder of this outcome, what we're doing is basically taking each of those. So each of the key knowledge dot points, you can see how this is going to be structured. So in the next video, we look at legal and government, and then society. So working our way around the diagram, and then we're going to come into the operating environment and finish up the outcome by looking at those 4. And that is it for this video. Like I said, a nice quick short one, just a reminder, but just make sure you can understand and you can define accurately all three of those terms: external environment, operating environment, and macro environment, and we are all good. So I will see you in the next video where we're going to start actually working around those specific factors in the external environment. Cheers for now.